Part 2 of Unit 16, Chemistry in Everyday Life. 16.3, Therapeutic Action of Different Classes of Drugs. In this section, we shall discuss the therapeutic action of a few important classes of drugs. 16.3.1, Antacids. Overproduction of acid in the stomach causes irritation and pain. In severe cases, ulcers are developed in the stomach. Until 1970, only treatment for acidity was administration of antacids such as sodium hydrogen carbonate or a mixture of aluminum and magnesium hydroxide. However, excessive hydrogen carbonate can make the stomach alkaline and trigger the production of even more acid. Metal hydroxides are better alternatives because of being insoluble. These do not increase the pH above neutrality. These treatments control only symptoms and not the cause. Therefore, with these metal salts, the patients cannot be treated easily. In advanced stages, ulcer become life-threatening and its only treatment is removal of the affected part of the stomach. A major breakthrough in the treatment of hyperacidity came through the discovery according to which a chemical, histamine, stimulates the secretion of pepsin and hydrochloric acid in the stomach. The drug cimetidine tegamet was designed to prevent the interaction of histamine with the receptors present in the stomach wall. This resulted in release of lesser amount of acid. The importance of the drug was so much that it remained the largest selling drug in the world until another drug, ranitidine Zantac, was discovered. 16.3.2, Antihistamines. Histamine is a potent vasodilator. It has various functions. It contracts the smooth muscles in the bronchi and gut and relaxes other muscles such as those in the walls of fine blood vessels. Histamine is also responsible for the nasal congestion associated with common cold and allergic response to pollen. Synthetic drugs brompheniramine, dimetap and terfenadine, silden act as antihistamines. They interfere with the natural action of histamine by competing with histamine for binding sites of receptor where histamine exerts its effect. Now the question that arises is, why do above mentioned antihistamines not affect the secretion of acid in stomach? The reason is that anti-allergic and antacid drugs work on different receptors. 16.3.3, Neurologically active drugs. A. Tranquilizers. Tranquilizers and analgesics are neurologically active drugs. These affect the message transfer mechanism from nerve to receptor. Tranquilizers are a class of chemical compounds used for the treatment of stress and mild or even severe mental diseases. These relieve anxiety, stress, irritability, or excitement by inducing a sense of well-being. They form an essential component of sleeping pills. There are various types of tranquilizers. They function by different mechanisms. For example, noradrenaline is one of the neurotransmitters that plays a role in mood changes. If the level of noradrenaline is low for some reason, then the signal sending activity becomes low and the person suffers from depression. In such situations, antidepressant drugs are required. These drugs inhibit the enzymes which catalyze the degradation of noradrenaline. If the enzyme is inhibited, this important neurotransmitter is slowly metabolized and can activate its receptor for longer periods of time, thus counteracting the effect of depression. Iproniazid and phenelzine are two such drugs. Some tranquilizers, namely chlordiazepoxide and meprobamate, are relatively mild tranquilizers suitable for relieving tension. Equanil is used in controlling depression and hypertension. Derivatives of barbituric acid, that is veronal, amytal, nembutal, luminal, and second constitute an important class of tranquilizers. These derivatives are called barbiturates. Barbiturates are hypnotic, that is sleep producing agents. Some other substances used as tranquilizers are Valium and serotonin. Analgesics. B. Analgesics. Analgesics reduce or abolish pain without causing impairment of consciousness, mental confusion, incoordination or paralysis, or some other disturbances of nervous system. These are classified as follows. First, non-narcotic, that is non-addictive analgesics, and second is narcotic drugs. First is non-narcotic, that is non-addictive analgesics. Aspirin and paracetamol belong to the class of non-narcotic analgesics. Aspirin is the most familiar example. Aspirin inhibits the synthesis of chemicals known as prostaglandins, which stimulate inflammation in the tissue and cause pain. These drugs are effective in relieving skeletal pain, such as that due to arthritis. These drugs have many other effects, such as reducing fever, antipyretic, and preventing platelet coagulation. Because of its anti-blood clotting actions, aspirin finds use in prevention of heart attacks. Second is narcotic analgesics. Morphine and many of its homologues, when administered in medicinal doses, relieve pain and produce sleep. In poisonous doses, this produce stupor, coma, convulsions, and ultimately death. Morphine narcotics are sometimes referred to as opiates since they are obtained from the opium poppy. These analgesics are chiefly used for the relief of postoperative pain, cardiac pain, and pains of terminal cancer and in childbirth. 16.3.3 Antimicrobials. Diseases in human beings and animals may be caused by a variety of microorganisms such as bacteria, virus, fungi, and other pathogens. An antimicrobial tends to destroy, prevent, development of or inhibit the pathogenic action of microbes such as bacteria, antibacterial drugs, fungi, antifungal agents, virus, antiviral agents, or other parasites, antiparasitic drugs selectively. Antibiotics, antiseptics, and disinfectants are antimicrobial drugs. A. Antibiotics. Antibiotics are used as drugs to treat infections because of their low toxicity for humans and animals. Initially, antibiotics were classified as chemical substances produced by microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, and molds that inhibit the growth or even destroy microorganisms. The development of synthetic method has helped in synthesizing some of the compounds that were originally discovered as products of microorganisms. Also, some purely synthetic compounds have antibacterial activity, and therefore definition of antibiotic has been modified. An antibiotic now refers to a substance produced wholly or partly by chemical synthesis, which in low concentrations inhibits the growth or destroys microorganisms by intervening in the metabolic processes. The search for chemicals that would adversely affect invading bacteria but not the host began in the 19th century. Paul Ehrlich, a German bacteriologist, conceived this idea. He investigated arsenic based structures in other to produce less toxic substances for the treatment of syphilis. He developed the medicine arphenamine known as salvarsan. Paul Ehrlich got Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1908 for his discovery. It was the first effective treatment discovered for syphilis. Although salvarsan is toxic to human beings, its effect on the bacteria spirochete, which causes syphilis, is much greater than on human beings. At the same time, Ehrlich was working on azotides also. He noted that there is similarity in structures of salvarsan and azotides. The AS double bond AS linkage present in asphenamine resembles the N double bond N linkage present in azotides in the sense that arsenic atom is present in place of nitrogen. He also noted tissues getting colored by dyes selectively. Therefore, Ehrlich began to search for the compounds which resemble in structure to azotides and selectively bind to bacteria. In 1932, he succeeded in preparing the first effective antibacterial agent, Prontocil, which resembles in structure to the compound salvarsan. Soon it was developed that in the body Prontocil, it is converted to a compound called sulfanilamide, which is the real active compound. Thus, the sulfa drugs were discovered. A large range of sulfonamide analogues was synthesized. One of the most effective is sulfapyridine. Despite the success of sulfonamides, the real revolution in antibacterial thereby began with the discovery of Alexander Fleming in 1929 of the antibacterial properties of a penicillium fungus. Isolation and purification of active compound to accumulate sufficient material for clinical trials took 13 years. Antibiotics have either cidal killing effect or a static inhibitory effect or on microbes. A few examples of the two types of antibiotics are as follows. Bactericidal, penicillin, aminoglycosides, ofloxacin. Bacteriostatic are arthromycin, tetracycline, chloramphenicol. The range of bacteria or other microorganisms that are affected by a certain antibiotic is expressed as its spectrum of action. Antibiotics which kill or inhibit a wide range of gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria are said to be broad-spectrum antibiotics. Those effective mainly against gram-positive or gram-negative bacteria are narrow-spectrum antibiotics. If effective against a single organism or disease, they are referred to as limited-spectrum antibiotics. Penicillin G has a narrow spectrum. Ampicillin and amoxicillin are synthetic modifications of penicillins. These have broad spectrum. It is absolutely essential to test the patient for sensitivity, that is allergy, to penicillin before it is administered. In India, penicillin is manufactured at the Hindustan Antibiotics in Pimpri and in private sector industry. Chloramphenicol, isolated in 1947, is a broad spectrum antibiotic. It is rapidly absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract and hence can be given orally in case of typhoid, dysentery, acute fever, certain form of urinary infections, meningitis and pneumonia. Vancomycin and ofloxacin are the other important broad spectrum antibiotics. The antibiotic diazidazirin is supposed to be toxic toward certain strains of cancer cells. B. Antiseptics and disinfectants. Antiseptics and disinfectants are also the chemicals which either kill or prevent the growth of microorganisms. Antiseptics are applied to the living tissues such as wounds, cuts, ulcers, and diseased skin surfaces. Examples are furacin, soframycin, etc. These are not ingested like antibiotics. Commonly used antiseptic, Dettol is a mixture of chloroxylenol and terpenol. Bithionol, the compound is called bithionol, is added to soaps to impart antiseptic properties. Iodine is a powerful antiseptic. Its 2-3% solution in alcohol water mixture is known as tincture of iodine. It is applied on wounds. Iodoform is also used as an antiseptic for wounds. Boric acid in dilute aqueous solution is weak antiseptic for eyes. Disinfectants are applied to inanimate objects such as floors, drainage system, instruments, etc. Same substances can act as an antiseptic as well as disinfectant by varying the concentration. For example, 0.2% solution of phenol is an antiseptic while its 1% solution is disinfectant. Chlorine in the concentration of 0.2 to 0.4 ppm in aqueous solution and sulfur dioxide in very low concentration are disinfectants. 16.3.5 Anti-fertility drugs. Antibiotic revolution has provided long and healthy life to people. The life expectancy has almost doubled. The increased population has caused many social problems in terms of food resources, environmental issues, employment, etc. To control these problems, population is required to be controlled. This has led to the concept of family planning. Anti-fertility drugs are of use in this direction. Birth control pills essentially contain a mixture of synthetic estrogen and progesterone derivatives. Both of these compounds are hormones. It is known that progesterone suppresses ovulation. Synthetic progesterone derivatives are more potent than progesterone. Norethindrone is an example of synthetic progesterone derivative most widely used as anti-fertility drug. The estrogen derivative which is used in combination with progesterone derivative is ethinylestradiol, novestrol. 16.4 Chemicals in food will be covered in the next video. Thank you.